Clash of Deck is a delightful new card game coming to Kickstarter in February. When it comes to card games, it actually takes a lot to surprise me when it comes to new mechanics or new design decisions. Clash of Deck has done both. It's a card game that you're not going to want to miss out on, and all for the low price of $30. Let's go ahead and hop into the review. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Battlecast. Clash of Deck is a card game for 2 to 4 players. It's fast, coming in at just 10 to 30 minutes. Not only is it simple to learn, but there are also some features that really cleverly balance the game fluidly as the game goes on. And this ensures that every time you play, it's going to be a pretty tight game. The game is designed by Leandri Proust, and the art is by Clement Proust. Now, I've actually done a full gameplay video for this game, which you can go ahead and check out. I'll link it here, and that'll give you a much better idea of how the game plays. The game that I had access to was a print and play version, so I actually cut the cards myself, so they're, it's a prototype, things are subject to change. But I was also playing with kind of a simplified version of the game. There were just creatures, but in the actual game there's going to be spells and heroes as well. Now the game actually starts with a draft. You reveal 4 cards from the deck, and players take turn drafting from the available cards, and you repeat this until each player has 8 cards in their hand. The goal of the game is to first kill your opponent's watchtower, which then flips to their stronghold, and then to kill their stronghold, at which point you win the game. Now this is done by playing cards from your hand onto the table in these 2 rows represented by these 2 bridges. If unopposed, creatures on your side of the bridge will deal damage directly to your opponent's structure. Now the first thing I like about this game is the layout of the cards. Now art style is subjective, but for me, I actually really like this kind of cartoony, colorful art style. Most importantly, however, is the layout of these cards. It is absolutely fantastic. It's very clean. I'm a big fan of having colorful images representing their abilities instead of ability text because, although initially when you play the game, having the abilities and what they do printed on the card may be helpful, it really does clutter things up, and I think the images, consulting a legend instead, it's near as effective, but more importantly later, once you kind of know the game, it just keeps things very clean. Now the big mechanic in this game, the thing that really made it speak to me as far as ingenuity goes, is how health and mana are represented. In Clash of Deck, you hold all the cards in your hand, and the leftmost card in your hand is your watchtower. Now, as you take damage from your watchtower, you actually move the watchtower farther to the right in your hand. So if you took 3 damage, you'd move it 3 spaces to the right. If ever the watchtower reaches the rightmost spot in your hand, you flip it to the stronghold, put it back on the left-hand side of your deck, and then repeat the same process if you take damage. If the stronghold ever reaches the rightmost spot of your hand, you lose. Now furthermore, the amount of mana that you have available to you at the start of your turn is equal to the number of cards in your hand. Now the reason I think this dual part mechanic is so clever is that, firstly visually it's pretty evident what's going on. You just look at where your opponent's stronghold or watchtower is in their hand, and that's how close you are to winning. And furthermore, in relation to mana, if your opponent has 3 cards in their hand at the start of their turn, they have 3 mana. The second thing about this game is that your health and mana are very fluid, and there's sort of this auto-balancing feature. The more cards of yours you have on the board in front of you, the less mana you have to spend at the start of your turn, and the less damage you can take if it finds its way through before you actually die. This works out as a really cool passive balancing technique. I definitely had a game where I had many creatures on the board and only a few cards in my hand, and as my powerful creatures were being removed, I didn't have enough mana to play them again because I only had, 3 cards, 3 mana. Furthermore, my opponent was able to sneak through damage to my watchtower, and just like that, I had lost the game. So there's some really cool comeback, balancing built in. Furthermore, when creatures die, they come back to the rightmost spot on your hand. And so effectively, as your creatures die, they're sort of pushing your watchtower more to the left, which is healing it. So Sometimes you're on the brink of death, but by throwing out a bunch of chaff, you're reducing the damage you take, but also, when they die, kind of healing yourself. It's very cool. Now, the game is broken up into 3 phases, and the first phase is the gain mana step, so you gain mana equal to the number of cards in your hand. Next, you play cards, and you actually are only eligible to play the first 4 cards in your hand, so this really promotes a cycling of your cards, and it prevents you from playing, the same card over and over. Now, each card has a mana cost located in the top left, and when a card is placed, you place it in one of the 2 rows, one of the 2 lanes for the bridges, and it has to be in the spot closest to the bridge. Lastly, you go to the deal damage step. Now, generally, creatures can't attack the turn that they enter play, though there are some exceptions. And if creatures are eligible for to attack, starting with the top lane, with the creature who is farthest from the bridge, working inward, then the bottom lane, again, the creature farthest from the bridge, working inward. And they always attack the creature in front of them. But what's interesting is that they only attack, enemies that are eligible to be attacked. And this is kind of a nifty thing because, if you have a flying creature and I have someone who can't attack flying, well, they're safe from me killing them. But because I can't attack them, I'll actually attack the stronghold instead. So you really have to balance, making sure you have things in lane that your opponent can hit so that they don't hit your stronghold. But, you can also cleverly position your creatures so that they don't die and therefore are a constant threat. Now, while I primarily just played the competitive 1 versus 1 mode, I should mention that there's actually a duo mode, there's a co-op mode, so there are other ways to play. I mean, from what I understand, you will be able to play 2 versus 2, which I think is very cool indeed. But again, I just kind of played the 1 versus 1 mode. Clash of Deck is a clean and creative new card game that uses fluid mechanics to ensure each game is close and exciting. It's cheap, and it's definitely worth checking out now on Kickstarter. Thank you so much for watching this preview for Clash of Deck. Let me know what you think of this simple card game in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider supporting the channel by liking this video or subscribing to the channel, and especially hitting that bell icon. Feel free to leave comments in the comments section below. I love talking with you guys. Until next video, I'll see you then. Thanks.